There's an empire being built brick by brick, right under taxpayers' noses. What is this empire? It is the Austin Homeless Hotel Empire. We at hugepatriot.com decided to investigate the homeless hotel empire after the city council put yet another homeless hotel purchase/occupation on the November 12th, 2020 agenda. We had seen enough. City council keeps buying these homeless hotels during a pandemic and during an economic crisis when the money could potentially be used for COVID preparation or in other manners like funding the police. But that's why you have to question what's really going on here, because this story really has everything. And we had to call it quits on the story at some point, because the more we dug, the more we keep bringing up and finding. It's insane. This story has everything: federal funding, federal planning, buying homeless hotels before the pandemic, relabeling them as COVID-19 quarantine buildings after the pandemic, easy China money, grants to hotels that already had the Chinese investment, and the same grant going to a hotel where the owner contributed to Mayor Adler's campaign. And not only that, it also has a controversy regarding defunding the APD and the use of police to guard these homeless hotels. We even saw drug dealing going on, which we'll detail later on. This story literally has everything in it. And we hope that us bringing this to light encourages other listeners and patriots to dig in and to keep the local city council accountable, because it's unclear what the end goal is here. You can't ever end homelessness. It's a problem that is unfixable, and maybe that's why they select it. But there's tons of money being poured into it. There's a plan in the background, and we hope to help investigate it further, but we hope to motivate people to investigate on their own. So with that, let's get right into it. So we decided to drive around and investigate the latest homeless hotel. But before we did that, we wanted to visit some of the old ones, and that's where our minds were just completely blown at what we saw. We saw hotels with fences around them, but not only fences. These fences had black tarp coverings with signs saying "closed to the public." And not only that, there was intimidating police at the front. The first hotel we went to, the police got out of a car and yelled at us, asking us if we wanted something. It was quite eye-opening.
Well, don't park right here in front of the guy.
I don't care. What are they going to do? Arrest me?
So with that, let's go to the first video. The first video is of 7400 North I-35. This used to be a country inn and suites, and it's located relatively close to the University of Texas, and that's how they basically label themselves on their website. However, it's not open to the public anymore, even though the website might be still up. And in May 2020, the city council authorized $8.75 million to be utilized for this hotel alone. And as of September 2020, the city has spent $500,000 on this location. And the relatively low amount spent so far makes sense because this location seemed pretty empty from what we could see. And we'll show that in the video. In the video, you can see somebody sitting there alone. You'll see the police officer there, and you'll also see the surrounding parts of the hotel. And the shocking thing about this location was mere blocks away at a gas station, we saw what appeared to be an open drug market where there was a drug dealer dealing out in the open to people lined up. And maybe we could come up with a reason for why people were lining up to a person, but on the other side was what appeared to be another drug dealer that was dealing to cars driving through. And all this right in the parking lot of a business. So I wonder how this impacts that person's business and gas station. And we drove past here on another day as we were doing some more investigation, and the same thing was occurring, except this time the car drug dealing was being done at a gas pump. And I don't blame the police for this, because I'm sure that they don't have enough resources to be investigating this. And I think some of the narcotics units and organized crime units are having money taken away from them. But also there's lack of energy to prosecute drug crimes in the city. So I'm sure that's another component. And this is right on the freeway as well, this location. So it's not hidden in the back neighborhoods. This is out in the open. And during peak times of traffic, normal citizens can see what's going on here. The next location we went to was 6121 North I-35. And this is formerly the Crown Plaza. And this is a huge location. And the city has authorized $2.8 million in April 2020 and $5.25 million as of July 29, 2020. And this includes 264 guest meals a day for people staying there and staff. And as of September, the city has spent $4 million at this location already. There was a black fence around the outside, and there was a police officer guarding the front entrance. And that's what we thought might happen after we went to the first location. We were shocked to see police guarding them because the city defunded the police. And to see police at multiple locations was crazy. And we were thinking to ourselves, there's no way they defunded the police and have them guarding these. But sure enough, that's what was happening. And at this location, since it's so big, they didn't only have a marked police car in the front, they also had an unmarked unit in the back, guarding the back in case people were trying to come in the back way. But it looks like the actual intake to the hotel was in the back because there's a sign that says intake only. And if the city tries to say that this is a location only for regular citizens, that would not be true, because we located tons of the purple homeless storage bins that the city has been talking about for the past few months and past year, of giving to the homeless to store their goods. And there was tens of bins there. The other crazy thing about the Crown Plaza, as we dug into this, is that the owner of this property is Hotel USA Partners LLC, which appears to have received $350,000 to $1 million in PPP funds this year per CNN. And you have to ask, why is the city bailing out a hotel? Because if you read the Yelp reviews for this hotel, they're pretty bad. And the pictures on Yelp of this location are terrible. So why is the city bailing out a hotel that's barely staying alive and that also received PPP funds? It seems like COVID-19 was a dream come true for this Crown Plaza, because not only did they get PPP funds, they also got a homeless hotel deal. Seems pretty convenient to me. The next location we went to is 5182 North I-35. And this was formerly La Quinta. And as we drove around this location, we noticed that there was no people occupying this location yet. There's no fencing, no police, and it looked like there appeared to be construction trucks getting ready to get something going here. And this makes sense because this location was authorized for occupation in September 2020. So it makes sense that there was nothing going on here. After that location, we went to the 3105 North I-35 location, which was formerly a Days Inn. Now the city has spent $637,000 on this location as of September 3rd, 2020. And you could see from our video of this location, the black fencing and an APD officer guarding the entrance. And this location is right next to the university. So there are university students all around this location, and who knows if they know what's going on here. The next location that we went to that is a confirmed homeless hotel is 2711 South I-35. And this is formerly a Roadway Inn. And this is the most expensive hotel for Austin taxpayers at the moment. And it is one of the first hotels the city of Austin acquired through the HUD program. And the city has spent well over $5 million on this location, and there's much more to be spent on this location. And you can see 2 police cars at this location in the video. And you can see the typical black fencing that we were speaking about earlier. And the city has spent $6.3 million on this location as of September 3rd, 2020. And some of this funding is supposed to be using for renovating this, but the motel looked like it was the same as it did before they blew all this money on it. The city is currently supposed to be rehabilitating the property. and they applied for federal funding to acquire the land and rehabilitate it. So some of the money has been used to acquire the land, and they're supposed to be using the rest to rehabilitate it. The last location we'll be discussing is 30175 South I-35. This is the Caruso Hotel. And this is not currently on any city homeless hotel documents. We ran across this hotel as we were driving to investigate 2711 South I-35. And we observed that this property shares several characteristics with the other homeless hotels. The characteristics it shared is that it's run down and it has the fencing on the outside of it. And it's also on I-35, which is where the city's been buying hotels. So, and the first time we went to investigate, we were actually yelled at by an owner across the street. So we had to come back on a different day. And when we came back, we were shocked what we found. We went in there and Teddy investigated it. He got yelled at.
Curious, there's no gift shop, the pool's closed. This wall finder doesn't look like it's been used for a long time.
And then he got some documents that showed their rates, and their rates are astronomical for the monthly rate and a nightly rate. It doesn't appear to be doing well either. On Yelp, they received some really, really terrible reviews. It doesn't appear to be a viable business. And when we started digging even further, we found connections to the city. So this is not a homeless hotel yet, but it's connected to the city. Turns out the city, including Mayor Adler, went to China to form connections and get investment for Austin. So randomly enough, they decided to invest in a hotel. And this is back in 2016. And they invested in the Caruso Hotel. And as you can see in the video where Teddy went inside, it's Asian themed. And they had an Asian woman working at the front desk. So they have Chinese investment here. And the hotel is doing very poorly, as you can see from the reviews. And what kind of a hotel that looks this way charges so much money? It leads to a lot of questions. But back to the Mayor Adler line. So we kept on investigating this, and we found that the owner of the hotel, whose first name is Sam, had provided Mayor Adler with a kind donation in 2018. And sure enough, when the pandemic hit, well, they got a friendly little $40,000 grant. And this grant is going to this hotel that has Chinese investors in it. So that means that grant is going to help these Chinese investors out. And so if this hotel ends up not being able to stay open, or even if they do stay open, the city might end up bailing them out since they've bailed out all these other terrible locations and giving the owner millions of dollars. The other crazy thing that we found out about this location is that there was a huge meth drug bust here in 2017. And depending on the timing with that Chinese investment, it was potentially after the city of Austin had secured them an investment in China. And as we read some of the Yelp reviews of the other hotels, like the Crown Plaza, there's people accusing drug dealing happening in the parking lot of the Crown Plaza. And also there's a Statesman article about these homeless hotels. They don't write much about them, but when they did, they talked about how one of the locations had tons of crime. And then how surrounding hotels, and one of them is the hotel right next to the Caruso, also had tons of crimes. So it's kind of weird. Austin City is buying these hotels that are infested with bed bugs, cockroaches. There's used condoms in some of them, and there's drug deals getting busted at the Caruso and there's guests seeing drug deals happen in the parking lot. The Statesman's covering crimes along all these I-35 hotels. So it's a little bit concerning, and the amount of threads that come off of here for people to investigate, including us in future articles and future videos, is pretty insane. But there's even more questions that come out of this homeless hotel empire, because the city of Austin has already spent well over 10 million, $20 million. They've authorized over $10 million, at least for these hotels. And one has to question, where does this end? Because how is the city, how are taxpayers ever going to get out of this? You have to acquire these buildings. And in some cases, they're not acquiring, they're just paying millions of dollars to occupy them for months at a time. And a lot of times they're feeding the people in here. And that's on the taxpayer dime a lot of the time. So why is the city, why are taxpayers being put on the hook for homeless hotels, in addition to all the camping that's going on? Because most people, what they notice about the homelessness in Austin is the camping, and they focus on that and they yell on it. But what they haven't realized that there's this hotel empire being built behind the scenes, and it's growing. It's growing and growing. As we can see, as there's a new hotel that's coming online in November, it's put on the November 12th, 2020 City Council agenda, and that's in District 6. And that's a Fairfield Inn and Suites. And that's a very nice location, and that hotel isn't as bad as the other ones. So they're branching out. Most of the hotels were either in District 4 or parts of District 9, and now they're just moving them across the city. So where is this going to end? How much is the city going to bury into these homeless hotels? And another thing that the one in District 6 raises is, this is in the middle of an election. This is in the middle of a runoff election for Jimmy Flanagan. Is there something going on with that? Because as you'll see in some other posts that we write, it appears that somebody is registering these homeless to vote. There's thousands of homeless registered to vote in downtown. And I'm not saying the homeless shouldn't have the right to vote, but is there something else going on there? And also, or are they trying to hide homeless in certain districts to make it appear as if they're doing something? And a lot of people might say that they're housing the homeless, but would you want to be housed in a place that's infested with cockroaches and bed bugs? There's tons of photos on Yelp with people with bed bug bites all over their body, tons of pictures of cockroaches. So they're not doing the homeless, any favors. They're just concentrating them into one place, concentrating them into places infested with bed bugs. And these businesses would have failed if it weren't for the city of Austin. And yet the city of Austin here is bailing out these failed hotels when they could have been giving it to restaurants and bars and other small businesses to keep them alive. There's other small businesses in the city that have failed during this time, and they could have used some of these millions of dollars. But it's also not just the city council's fault, although a lot of it, I would say, is. It's also our federal government. For some reason in the CARES Act, they put provisions in here for these homeless motels to put them across the city. So I think there's something more going on here. There's plenty more to dig on. So to stay up to date, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications, and also subscribe to our newsletter. We'll be putting all relevant links into the description to this video. Thanks for watching.